Hey, what's up everybody? So today we are going to continue programming our arm. We're going to move our pawn from our third step to here, like this. So let's get into that. We're going to need to open up Arduino. And my Arduino program is slightly newer than yours, so it looks a little bit different, but everything's going to work more or less the same. So again, I have my Arduino plugged in, I have my power supply plugged in. Honestly though, you don't need to have that stuff connected yet. If your system is kind of like bugging out because somebody else has loaded code onto it, probably just best to disconnect things until your code is ready to go. So we're going to set up our code similar to what we did last time. I'm going to add my name after a comment. So again, 2 slashes. This is going to be my chessboard base code. And I need to go to Sketch and include my servo library again. So it's going to put that at the top, which is fine. I need to name my servo, so we are going to say servo left, right, claw, middle, semicolon. Okay, so again, we are defining servo names. So in our setup, we are going to attach these things just like we did before. So my claw is attached to 8. Left is attached to 9. Middle is attached to 10. Okay. Right is attached to 11, right? We have semicolons at the end of all that stuff. And I'll add some comments quick. All right. So we are going to create a base program to like get our arm to package up a little nicer than just like straight up 90 degrees. So let's see if we can move my camera around and kind of give you folks an idea as to what this is going to look like. When we look at the arm is kind of packaged back on itself about as tight as it can go. We also have the claw open. This is what we're going to call our base position for our system, and we're going to like start setting that up first. Alright, so back to the programming here. We are going to create a function today. Functions is something that we can reuse like many times, and our function is going to be set up for the base position of our system. So we have our void set up, we have our void loop. We are going to go to the very bottom. So we're going to click enter underneath the void loop. Notice that this curly Q bracket is above where I'm working. I'm below the loop. And I'm going to type in the word void. Void means that we're not planning to return any sort of data later on. And I'm going to name this function base position. Notice that I'm using one word to create this, okay? One word with the second letter capitalized. I'm going to put an open curly Q bracket and then hit return a couple times to give us some space. So now everything that happens between here and here is inside of void base position. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to write all of our positions to like their defaults. I'm also going to delay 1 second at the end for it to like pause. Alright, now that base position has been written, we need to utilize base position. So we can call base position and it will execute this line of code every single time. We're going to go back up to void setup below where we've attached everything, and we are going to write base capital P position, and we're going to put an open and close parentheses and a semicolon after it. So whenever this line of code is written in like void setup or void loop for that matter, it's going to jump down to this chunk of code and it's going to execute all of these lines. So I'm going to go to upload my code, so you can see I have an error now. It says base position was not declared. That's because I spelled position down here wrong or differently than I spelled it up there. Like, it doesn't actually matter if your spelling is correct 100%. It just matters that it matches 100%. So there's my arm. My arm has gone like a little bit crooked compared to the chessboard. I have this thing like straight up against the chessboard here. When we go to change our settings to make them like collapse back up again to a good base position, I would suggest changing one thing at a time. So I'm going to get mine to go straight first. So that's the middle. I need to edit that. So down in base position, middle dot right, I think I need to go up to make my numbers, to make it move to the left. So let's try 110 degrees. Let's upload this and see what happens. Okay, so there my arm moved over, but now we can kind of see that it's moved over a little too much. So we're going to change this to 100 degrees and see how that works. Now your numbers are going to be different than mine slightly. Everybody's position of default is a little bit different. So you got to kind of like figure that out on your own. That is more or less pretty straight at this point. A little hard to tell somewhat in the camera angle, but that looks pretty good. So we're gonna move on from that. We're gonna start bringing like things in, and as a matter of fact, let's open. Well, the claw is open. The claw's already at 45 degrees, so the claw is like wide open. There's really no reason to go wider than that. Closing the claw again. Yesterday I was using like 105. So if I upload this, my claw should close. Good. So let's go back to 45 and let's add a comment, right? So 45 is open, 105 is closed. Let's also add 100 is middle, greater than 100 is to the left, less than to the right. Okay, so we're just putting in some notes so that we have this information as we go. Our right motor is going to slide in and out on our robot here. So let's get the right to like come in a little bit more, and let's say, I don't really know what direction to send this. So let's send this like 30 degrees in one direction. So I went from 90 to 120. I'm going to upload this code. Okay, so that just went out. All right, so we know that the bigger the number is, the further out it goes. So let's move this back now, maybe 50 or so. Let's see what that does. That should pull us in at this point. Okay, so that has pulled us in. And honestly, that looks pretty good. Let me show you what that looks like. Okay, so if we take a look at that, that's a pretty decent base position. We might be able to move like the left arm down a little bit to kind of like suck the claw in a little bit further, but honestly I think that this is a pretty good base position to start with. The nice thing about this base position is that like it's not going to hit the chess pieces that we use later on. So like we can move this thing around a little bit and it's not going to be a problem for the chess pieces that we use later on. Okay. So, next thing we're going to talk about is moving the pawn. So we have our base position done. We're going to talk about moving the pawn. We can't reach the pawn in like the second row, which is technically where the pawn belongs to begin with. But the arm can't physically get down that far at this position. So we're going to move our pawn out one extra space. Notice that my arm is more or less lined up directly in front of the pawn. We are going to move the pawn from this point here to this point here and drop it off, right? So we're trying to pick it up from roughly the middle of one square and drop it off roughly at the middle of the next square. So first of all, we need to get the arm to this position, and I wouldn't even worry about your pawn yet, but we need to move the arm to this position here. So base position's done. Every time we want to move our robot back to base position, this is where we're going to go. You know, we should add some more comments. So right, base is 50, bigger numbers, move arm out. We still haven't really figured out left, I guess, yet. I think that it goes higher up the bigger the number is. Let's try that. Let's see what that does. 120. Let's upload that. Let's see if my arm moves up. Oops. Yes, it did. Okay, so that just moved it up. We're gonna go back to 90. So base is 90, bigger numbers, move arm up. All right. So once again here, base position's done. We have some like general gist as to what we're gonna like be able to move the arm and whatnot. So let's get that thing to move to this square down here. So base position, this is where we're starting off at. Okay, so we're at our base position. In theory, we shouldn't need to move our middle at all. We need to move our arm out. We need to move our arm probably down, and we are going to ultimately need to close our claw. Code is executed within like milliseconds of one another, or even less. So sometimes it's important, especially like when closing the claw, that we pause before we close our claw to allow the arm to actually move to where it belongs, and then close the claw. But I think the other two things we can do more or less at the same time. And honestly, the out and down or up, they all play off of one another. So we gotta like kind of mess with both. So let's start with right, which is gonna move us out. Dot right. And again, out, according to my notes down here on right, is bigger numbers. So 50 is what I'm at right now. Let's try 90. Let's upload this. So the arm's going to go to its, oops, forgot a semicolon. The arm's going to go to its base position first, and then the right arm is going to move out. Like that. Again, I want that thing to be over here, which is getting close. It looks even a little closer than it is in the camera. But let's try and move it down too, because as of right now, like it's pretty high up. Difficult to see in my view, but it's pretty high up. So we are going to say now left dot right, and we want to move the left arm down. Bigger than 90 moves the arm up. We want to move the arm down. So let's call it like 60 degrees. Let's try, that's still kind of too high. It also moved it back, you can see, because like both of these arms have a effect on one another. Let's try 50. Okay. Let's try and move the right out a little bit further. Let's do like 110. Let's see what that does for us. Okay, getting closer. Now the claw is really close to the base, or like the chessboard itself, which is good. But it still obviously needs to come out. As a matter of fact, it does seem like we could move from here to here. Looking at this, I didn't know that, but we're still going to start from here. So let's get this thing to move out a little bit further. Let's try the left a little bit bigger. Ooh, now we're starting to get close. So, still not quite far enough out. Like, if I were to close my claw right now, I think I would miss. So, let me try and adjust some numbers here. I'm going to change that to like 115. My automatic light system just turned on. Alright, let's see what that looks like. So again, there's its base, it comes out. Ooh, that's pretty good. Okay, so let me show you what you can't do, right? Let's say that I say claw dot right, 105 closes the claw. If I just do this like this, watch what happens. Oops, put this up. Ooh, it actually grabbed. That's very surprising that that actually grabbed on. I thought that that was going to push my pawn out of the way. It didn't. It actually grabbed onto it really nice. But instead of doing that, between like moving my arm and actually closing the claw, I am going to delay like a little bit of time. This is 0.5 seconds. Not 0.5 seconds, 0.2 of a second. All right, so there that was, okay? Now if I want to restart this, there's this little white button next to the gray piece. I can push my button, we're gonna open our claw, bring it back, then it moves forward and it closes again. It did push my piece out of the way, boom. There, it's grabbed onto my piece. So let's try and get it to like pick it up and slide it forward. So let's move our left one first, all right? So again, once we've closed our claw, I think that we want to delay a tiny bit of time. Doesn't really matter. Let's do our left first. So left out right. Let's go from 75 to maybe like 120. So let's upload that. Be careful it doesn't take your chess piece with it. Ooh, okay. So it's moved my piece out. It's floating in the air right now. So we need to move this thing like down. So I'm gonna move my right dot right, and so I'm gonna go above 50 to bring it down. Right, 115. Let's do something bigger than 115 because right up there is 115. Let's try like 130. Okay, that's getting closer. We're over top of this a little bit. I think that we're going to adjust it a tiny bit more. Let's say that we're going to move right out to about 140. Let's try, because it's not quite there. Let's try that. Ooh, that's pretty darn close, actually. That's pretty good. So let's try to open our claw. So again, we're going to delay to let it move there. What did I delay before? 200. I can do the same thing again. And I'm going to say claw.right 45 to open up our claw. Hey, there that thing has moved my piece. Let it go. It's in the middle. That's awesome. Let's send the arm back to its base position now. So next line of code, base position. Add our brackets. And let's give this another try. I'm going to press that reset button. So fast, I feel like the camera hardly picks it up. So again, here's the reset button. Boom, it's back again. So awesome. That's looking pretty good, honestly. Like, we're picking it up in the middle, we're dropping it off in the middle. It's pretty accurate. It is fast. Now, slowing these servos down, you can't really control the speed of the servos, not physically. Could be some fancy programming things that we could do to change it and slow it down. We're not going to get into that right now. Maybe later on I'll create a video for some of those of you who are interested in like playing around with this thing more. Because slowing it down does have some advantages. But as of right now, the pawn is predictable. It's doing what it's supposed to do pretty much every single time, which is all we can ask for out of a robot. Put it back. Cool. All right, let's talk about what comes next. Next assignment you have is the bishop. The bishop moves, he's got the slit in the top. He moves, they move diagonally. So the goal is to pick your bishop up from somewhere on the board and move the bishop at least one space diagonally, and basically any forward direction is fine. That's your next activity. And what I would do for this, and watch what I do right now, I'm going to show you guys how to create a multi-line comment. So up, above, maybe not above base position, but this is all of the stuff to move our chessboard. So actually I'm going to call this the pawn program. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment out the pawn program, and then we can start working on like a bishop program. So in order to do a multi-line comment, we are going to do a backslash and then an asterisk. Then where we want to end that like multi-line comment, notice everything is commented now, we are going to do an asterisk backslash. Okay, so the asterisks point towards the code that you want to comment out. So now, for instance, I could work on my bishop program, and I could start designing that. I could upload that and continue on, or you can copy and paste and create a whole new program for the bishop. The last piece we're going to mess with is the knight. The knight looks like this. The knight starts on a position and it moves like 1, 2 forward and 1 over. Or it could go 1, 2 forward and 1 that direction. It also can come like 1 forward and then 2 in any direction. So again, the goal here would be to be able to pick up the knight and move the knight in any one of its like available directions from the center of one tile, which again, you can kind of choose which tile you want to start on, to the center of, again, one of the tiles that it's supposed to be able to handle. All right, so good luck with all that stuff. You know, small moves, change one thing at a time, and everything will go good. Here's the bishop. There we go. Second time's a charm. Let's try it again. Oh, so close. There we go. All right. Lastly, here is my night program. Okay, so again, went over and then up. One more time. Awesome. So once again, remember, like and subscribe. Thanks.